Nice to have Sridhar Vembu this morning, all the way from rural South India. Sridhar is one of my favorite CEOs. He's humble, even though he's grown a phenomenal company over the last 25 years. He's cerebral. We always have philosophical discussions. And, it'll be fun to go listen to him talk about. The last time I met him, we actually talked about two things that have turned out to be very prophetic. We talked about a rural revival, and given all the food supply chain issues we're seeing, we're going to talk a little bit about that. He also talked about digital nomads working from anywhere, and that's clearly important today. So Sridhar, welcome on board. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah. Namaste.
Namaste to you too. That's a safe way of saying hello nowadays.
Yeah, nowadays, yeah. I got used to it now, right? So, yeah, I am Sridhar Vembu, the CEO of Zoho, and I am now speaking from a very rural location in southern India, which is about 650 kilometers from our headquarters in Chennai, which is the nearest biggest city for us. So it's about 400 miles, and it's not that close. So that is where I am right now. So.
And you're able to communicate on what do you have? Do you have a satellite phone? What are you doing this on?
I actually have a 4G modem. This is our communication device right now. This is all, it's all going through. So I better not drop this now, because that's how this call is going through right now.
Oh, wow.
And it works most of the time quite well, actually.
And, a few years ago, we couldn't have done that, right? India telecommunications were pretty poor.
Yeah, this was just about, I think about back even 5 years ago, no, definitely 10 years ago, I literally could not work from a place like this. No one could have worked from a place like this on a job like what I do now. So that has profoundly changed. I mean, India is now everywhere. I mean, every village now has broadband access, and in a lot of cases, actually, they are willing to lay fiber to this village. Actually, if I pay the service provider, they will put fiber to this premise too. I'm going to get it, so it'll be much higher speed even. So and that's where it's heading, and that is profound change. Actually, it's going to change the world.
Yeah, let's come back to that. Let me ask you: India's had a fairly severe lockdown in places like Mumbai. How are you doing? How are your employees doing? It seems concerning what you're going through.
Yeah, we were one of the very first companies to lock down. So our employees are safe. I actually asked most of them to move back to their hometowns. Given that about 60-70% of our employees come from outside Chennai, the big city, most of them returned to their hometowns and they work from home. Like I came to this village, so that's how it happened. So our employees are doing fine. There's probably one case of positive community transmission in Chennai, but even that person is doing fine now. But Chennai itself is getting more and more cases. It's now up to 1,000 cases a day, and it's increasing rapidly. Mumbai has been hit hard, and India is now pretty much opening up. It's the same thing as US. The caseload is going up, and we are decided to open up because the economic impact has been so severe that there's not enough. You just couldn't do it. I mean, India tried. I'd say more than any country, actually, India did try, but our population density and all of this, our sheer population, all of that just makes it harder. So it's concerning now, but I mean, we're safe so far. So we have to see.
Well, good. Best wishes with that. Sridhar, Zoho is a 25-year-old company, but not too many people know about it. You've been too modest. Tell us about the success. I know you are absolutely favorites for a lot of small businesses. Tell us a little bit about Zoho.
Yeah. So Zoho, I'm one of the co-founders. It's now 25 years. In 96 is when we started, and it was bootstrapped. We actually never raised money, outside money, which is one of the reasons we are not as well known, because we don't spend a lot of money in marketing. Right? Like unlike we are VC funded, you can spend a lot of money in marketing. We tend to be conservative on that side, and we actually went through phases. The pre.com bust, that was the first 4 years, and then the post bust, and then the cloud evolution. All of these. to cut the long story short, we have actually in our Zoho.com suite, you can see over 45 applications. We actually provide, we call ourselves the operating system for business. So we actually have really an ambitious company technologically. We solve a whole lot of problems. We have about 8,000 employees now, and globally we are spread in pretty much every geography now. Everywhere we have offices now and all of that, all of which I get to run from this little village here. So that is the setup.
One of the neat things you have is something called Zoho One, right? It's a
Yes.
suite of, what is it, up to 50 applications now
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
included in one price? Tell us a little bit about Zoho One.
So Zoho One is we took all our applications and we packaged it as a single unified suite that is, we call it the operating system for companies that actually want to standardize on a platform and have a cohesive integrated suite. Because as you know, a lot of the challenges are integrating all these technologies, integrating all of the cloud applications, and there's too many of them. And we provide this full suite, which addresses everything from sales and marketing to collaboration. We actually even have a meeting product, which we have. Next time we are going to have that in our meeting product, right? This whole discussion.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. Everybody is introducing their meeting product. I'm surprised you have it here.
Yeah, and we have a full remote work suite. Actually, we bundle a lot of things other than meeting as well in it, and then the back office functionality, HR and financial. A lot of it is initially small business focused. Now we are moving up to the enterprise rapidly, particularly with our CRM suite. So that's where we are at.
See that in the doom and gloom, and this has been a cataclysmic event for the world. A lot of doom and gloom, but we've also seen a lot of heroics. Healthcare heroics, auto manufacturers jumping in, making medical ventilators, last mile logistics, emergency loans by the millions, just all kinds of what I call acrobatics. Tell us what Zoho and some of your customers have done. You're always very charitable and so on. I'm sure you have a few stories to share.
Yeah. What we have done, a couple of things. One, we had a pretty large, we have our corporate kitchens we used to feed all our employees. We repurposed it during this lockdown. We were providing, until this lockdown is now ended in India, nearly about 10,000 meals a day. And that is the scale at which we were operating. And we also support other groups to do this. These are all actually our own cooks, our own people in our staff, and then our employees deliver it at some percentage.
They were delivering also. Oh, wow.
They were delivering also, actually, in many cases. And then we have a subsidiary that is building these products for this ultraviolet zapping of things to eliminate the virus. Those kinds of, we had a hardware foray to emergency hardware foray to sort of sanitize other physical objects. Maybe you touched a phone and you want to sanitize it. Those kinds of things we have done a design, and actually that is going to even hit the market soon. So we've been working on a lot of engineering projects. We have built a 40-bed hospital in our own premises now, because India's one of the problems is we don't have enough healthcare infrastructure, enough capacity. So if something like COVID hits, the pandemic hits, when we started building it, Chennai was not yet a hot spot, but now that it's coming on stream, it is a hot spot, and we are anticipating. So we have actually a 40-bed unit ready now to go, and with staffed with the doctors and nurses, all of that, because we anticipate this problem, because we know that our public systems, all that cannot handle the work. I mean, it's one of the things of being a developing country. There's never enough capacity. So we have augmented with our own effort.
You were also very generous to your customers, right? You had a remote suite that you launched early on, and then you were generous in terms of some of the concessions you made for them. Tell us what you did for your customers.
The very beginning of this whole lockdown, we announced this emergency subscription assistance program, which we suspended the subscription for 3 months, completely free. So they can use our software, but they don't have to pay us. We made it an easy application, online application to get this. And about 12,000 businesses have now so far gotten it. What was surprising, I want to tell you this. There's actually some customers who came and said, I looked at it, I I could need it. Maybe just give me only 20% concession, 30%, because I don't want to take the full thing because let some other business have it, because you guys also have to live.
Very nice.
It's
Very nice.
surprising, actually. I mean, people have actually been, surprisingly. In fact, we expected more usage, but many people restrained their own use because they wanted the capacity to be available for other people. That is what we noticed in this. So, about 10, 12,000 people have used it.
That's fantastic. And when you hear stories like that, it just restores your faith in
Yeah, it is definitely,
human
definitely,
goodness.
and we see it. Companies when they're opening up, they're also coming back and saying, you know what, take me off of the program. I'm now ready to pay. And that is also happening. So we are seeing that actually worldwide, pretty much worldwide.
Tell us about it a little bit. I mean, you had to move everybody to remote, which couldn't have been easy in India. What
Yeah,
has that been like?
yeah. Like because of the cloud suite, we always worked in the cloud, so to speak. That made it a little bit easier. But the challenges were, of course, people had to connect from their hometowns. Connectivity is, initially was a challenge, and people had to figure out, do we have enough modems and all of that. Those are, logistical, and particularly when everything is getting locked down, you may not be able to go immediately get your modems, get your gear, all of that. Some people actually, we had to ship computers to them, and you couldn't ship. Those lockdown is coming. So those things we had to scramble to get it. But since we acted a little sooner than the whole government went to shut down mode, we were able to solve it. With the first few days were hiccups, all these we had to do, but we solved it. Now the whole company, about of 8,000 people, about 20 people show up to the office to make sure the office is running, the infrastructure is functioning, because we don't want to lose that, right? So there's about 20 people who show up. That's it, for a facility that seats about 8,000 people. So,
Sridhar, let's go back to our meeting in Austin in early January. And I've thought about that a few times, because one of the things you talked about was the rural revival. I mean, you're doing this from a village, and it's kind of prophetic because we've seen a lot of food supply. We've seen obviously electronic and medical supply chain disruptions, but also food supply chain disruptions. So tell us about your philosophy on why we need to pay more attention to rural areas and farming in general.
this has been a long-standing passion for me. I actually, in fact, many people assume that I came here because of the pandemic, but I've been here since September. Actually, I moved here essentially in September 2019. So I definitely didn't foresee a pandemic then. And the reason it happened, and it's been, and we've actually started an office in this area, about 15 miles from where I am right now. And that's about a 500 seat office. People, there's about 500 people who used to work out of that. Now, of course, everybody's working from home. And that was started about 9-10 years ago. And we actually had about 6 people, and we grew to now about 500 people. That was because I always thought that we needed to move jobs to rural locations, high-paying jobs. I had developed an economic understanding that the problem of rural areas is that their terms of trade, in other words, what they sell versus what they buy, is tilted against them. I mean, in this village, it's farmers. They sell pretty much rice and vegetables and stuff, and they import everything else on motor scooters and motorcycles and smartphones, and you name it, it's all coming in. You cannot pay for them with the earnings from just the rice and vegetables. There's not enough. They have to feed themselves and provide the food and just import everything else. And that's not, the terms of trade are completely tilted against them. So we need higher skilled, higher paying jobs. I decided employers have to solve this problem. So that's why I started moving jobs here. And most of the jobs are actually locally recruited. Out of the 500 people, about 450 or so are actually locals. We developed our own school here to bring them in. So that was how we developed it. And that post-pandemic, now we are going to accelerate this. In fact, I've decided that all our future expansion is going to be in rural areas, including in the US, where about 3-4 years ago, we started moving to Austin from the Bay Area. And our Austin office now, I have already declared that Austin will keep it to a certain size. Future expansion will all be in much smaller towns. Towns of 50,000, 100,000 in heart of rural America. That's where we are going to create our future jobs. So it's going to be true in the US. It's going to be true in India. That is what we have decided to do from here onwards. So big cities are where we will freeze our headcount where it is, but most of the new jobs will be located in rural areas.
I think you used the word we need to restore the topsoil in the rural
Yes,
areas. And you meant it
right.
in terms of the talent that has escaped from the rural areas. We need to move it back there. I
Exactly. And that is the topsoil and the trade imbalance that is tilted. I want to tilt it a little bit in favor of the rural area so that they get to keep their talent and the income that comes from the talent. Therefore, the rural area actually has more of a trade, better trade terms, and it doesn't lose the valuable topsoil because once it goes, the whole village starts to die. You can visibly see it. I mean, I've seen dying villages. So I want to restore this. And at the same time, in Bay Area and in big cities, even in India, there's a lot of people who have that longing to go back home in a way. Even
yeah,
people who are in their 50s, and there is a longing. There is a feeling that maybe I'm missing something in life. And I tell them, there's a village that is calling you. You got to be there, back there. And trust me, you will enjoy it. That's what I tell people. You haven't tried it. You have not tried it. You will enjoy it. You will see that life is much, much more pleasant. You will like it. And some people are beginning to take this advice. In Bangalore, I have some 5 or 6 people who are now starting to do this. I influence them personally. So,
I think you mentioned you're seeing that in younger people
yeah,
as they move out, nature walks, hikes, and all that
correct.
to improve their frame of mind too. So I think it's a healthy lifestyle in addition.
It is. It is.
Sridhar, the other point you made was you looked at me and you said, you and I can work from anywhere. And it's a true statement, but I didn't know we would all go into lockdown. And so what you said makes even more sense. So tell us a little bit about the digital nomad lifestyle. What do you,
Yeah.
I mean, you're running a company from there on a 4G line.
Yes.
What do you
Yes.
miss? What do you miss about a big city or, the trappings of Silicon Valley and so on?
I honestly I don't miss the big city. In fact, only one thing I get to complain nowadays is I've been working harder than I used to work. It's simply part of it is the pandemic planning and a lot of this. But actually, I found that partly the lockdown, right? The lockdown effect where you're staying in one place, you're not going anywhere. Even weekends, everything you're staying in the same place. So you end up working all the time. And someone like me that and sometimes I have to remind my son, today is a Sunday, I'm going to take time off. I'm going to just not work. It actually, last weekend, I had to remind myself because sometimes it just gets overwhelming. You just keep on working and then you forget that what is a weekend. I actually sometimes forget that it's a weekend. Last week, this literally happened. Saturday, somebody reminded me it's a Saturday today. I was at work. I was just working. And so that is the only complaint I have. Otherwise, actually, I'm able to get a lot done here. And I'm actually surrounded by nature. I go for a lot of walks. Of course, I'm on the phone calling somebody, but I'm still actually notice things. I notice the birds and the animals around and all of that. It's very beautiful. In fact, I get truly higher quality thoughts here compared to a big city. And the second is your comparison. See, a lot of us are sort of status-seeking animals, if you will. There's a prestige traps. Like, what car does my neighbor have? And what did they buy recently? All those kinds of thoughts. Those thoughts don't arise in these places. You simply don't think of those things. So there is a spiritual element where you become more contented. Naturally, your consumption habits go down. Actually, I've noticed that I simply spend less and naturally, without forcing myself, without having to think something is a sacrifice. It just naturally comes down. And that is good for the planet. And that's good for all our well-being. I estimate compared to my life in the Bay Area, I don't even spend a tenth of the energy, maybe 50th of the energy. It's shocking what an energy disparity there is between rural India and San Francisco Bay Area. So that is good for climate change too. So I do believe that this lifestyle, a lot more people have to explore this.
Well, you're certainly inspiring them to.
Yeah.
Sridhar, you've always been a positive. You're an optimist, you're smiling most of the time. Where do you get your? I mean, this is an amazing crisis. Where do you get your inspiration from? Is it your spirituality? Share some of your secrets. Where do you get your positive outlook from?
Yeah, there is one spiritual wisdom that I learned early on, which is that however much pain we go through in life, the pain is real, but suffering is optional. We can mentally choose whether
Repeat that. Pain is
real, but suffering is optional. It's not mine. It's something that I picked up from Buddhist literature, but it kind of summarizes the whole thing, right? Because this doesn't deny the reality that a lot of us go through various kinds of challenges and circumstances in life. It doesn't deny that. But it also teaches us that there is a mental attitude how we deal with it, and that suffering is optional. That's something actually, even for me, it took a while to understand what it means to be optional. It means I can choose not to suffer. That's actually a profound discovery, I would say. It's a profound discovery to realize that you can choose not to suffer, even if there's some pain. Yeah. So that is what actually taught me. And that after that, I've actually been, and I try to be always, one thing I try to practice is always be kind. You can never have to use a harsh word when you can use a polite word. All those simple things. Then try not to make somebody angry. I mean, in our public interactions, you go out something, we can choose not to make somebody angry. Right? And if somebody is angry, we can maybe withdraw from the confrontation. So a lot of these things actually, and just simple tricks like that can actually keep us on a daily even keel. That's what I try. And of course, I slip up once in a while and all that, but still, usually I am on a balanced frame of mind.
Somebody made the point that if you had been born in 1900, you would have lived through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, a couple of other wars. And somebody also made the point that if you were born in New York in 1990, you went through 9/11, you went through 2 economic meltdowns. In retrospect, I don't think people compare that. What we're going through, we're spoiled in comparison. We haven't seen a major crisis, most of us. So that's another perspective.
Definitely. I definitely keep that perspective that our previous generations have gone through far, far, far worse than what we have gone through. And the World War is a good example. One episode in history I always remind myself is what happened in the Nazi Germany, what happened in Soviet Union, what happened during Cultural Revolution in China. These were far greater challenges than anything the rest of the world, including in India, we've gone through. What the Chinese people went through, what Soviet Union, the people who went through there during all those periods of Stalinist terror, what people went through in Germany, a lot of those things, those are the real gut-wrenching episodes of history. Compared to that, the pandemic is challenging, but at least it's not nowhere as big a deal. And that's why we have to put things in perspective. And if we do that, then we also, and humanity came back from these episodes. And I mean, one of the most brilliant recoveries is China. I mean, in 1970, China was down completely in the dumps because of Cultural Revolution, the devastation. And then in 40 years later, they were a world superpower. So you can see that humanity springs back from these. So if we keep that in mind, we keep a perspective and don't overthink or overweight the current moment of difficulties.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your business. So I've heard from several CIOs that cloud applications did better than their on-premise applications. And we've clearly seen some massive scaling of video traffic and other cloud transactions. What are you hearing from your customers? Is the experience similar? Cloud has done better?
They're very similar. We are seeing rapid growth in some of the cloud technologies, particularly the remote work suite. We're seeing 100% growth in some of the parts of the business. And while we also have an on-premise division where we're seeing some challenges there. And primarily also, there is some part that is a permanent shift to the cloud. There's a part where during the lockdown, nobody is on-premise anyway. So there's on-premise software is more challenged that way. Nobody is evaluating new on-premise software. So there was those. But we definitely are seeing an accelerated shift to the cloud. In fact, there was just a couple of weeks ago, I talked to a CEO who actually gave us a fairly big contract to rapid implementation of our software. This deal happened in May when everything is locked down, and this company actually is locked down and they were having zero revenue. But he said, I want to use this opportunity to do a digital transformation of my business. I'm going to use this, and you guys have to come and help me. And we've set a very aggressive timeline to do this. And this deal closed in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. One of the largest deals in our history we did in May during the middle of the lockdown. That was surprised me. So you can see the pent up that I will use the opportunity to transform our business. So we are hearing that a lot. Actually.
So I've been asking everyone in this series, how do you see the economy recovering?
Yeah.
Do you see a sharp rebound, a V? Do you see a gradual U recovery? Do you see a W, which is kind of up and down depending on region, depending on flare-ups and so on?
Right.
Or do you see an L that's going to be dead for a while?
It's all of the above, because I'll give you anecdotes. I have a customer in the textile belt in India, and he tells me right now they're deluged with orders. After the lockdown is lifting, they said they're seeing huge surge in demand, unbelievable. And his problem is all the migrant labor have gone home and they have not come back yet.
Yes.
So he doesn't have any workers, and he's got all these orders. He doesn't know what to do. And he told me this is our challenge. How do you solve this challenge? Because all the workers are out there in their hometowns, sitting, waiting out the pandemic. And suddenly, as economies open up in the West, he's getting a deluge of orders. And I'm hearing there is actually a similar story about automotive demand in the US. Similar dealers are opening up and they're seeing traffic surge. There's a kind of a spring back demand. So I do see initially we are definitely going to have a spring back, and because things that are suppressed will come back. But there are longer term issues of global debt, sustainability of globalization, a lot of those issues. Because we have run this where US has run massive trade deficits. That's not sustainable. And a lot of these issues are to be resolved. And those things will keep any longer term recovery subdued. And potentially there could be a relapse into a recession, depression. So those are the challenges. And I also am on the record criticizing the Federal Reserve for this massive dose of money printing, and which I believe is going to cause longer term bigger problems. So those are real concerns, the money printing, the immense amount of debt that has already been out there and newly created. But short term, I do see these positives, because what I'm hearing from the customers, what they're telling us.
Well, that is actually you're more optimistic than some other people that I've talked to. So that's good to hear. What else? I mean, you're always so positive. What else can you share with your peers, others in the world?
Yeah, I'd say, there is this pandemic, all of this is one side. But globally, all of us have to rethink certain assumptions we have made about lifestyles, lives, all of these. And you see the events in America, and this is something that I have been foreseeing for a while because of the rising inequality, the massive rise in inequality in the last 20, 25 years. I've been in the US since 1989, and I've seen the society become more and more unequal. And what we see on the streets, and it's a direct reflection of it in many cases. So, and that is, I believe that we have to address these issues. And that requires action from all the decision makers, corporations, corporate elite, CEOs, all of us. And I would say, let's go create jobs in more disadvantaged areas, more rural areas, smaller towns. And we have to create jobs. The people who have the power to create jobs have to act. And the second, we definitely have to reduce our Wall Street addiction. We shouldn't be running companies to satisfy Wall Street. We should be running companies with all our employees, communities, all of that have to come first. Because that is the only way to address these inequalities and all of these. There are societies that have done better, right? Yeah, Finland, New Zealand, Japan, all of them have much more, societies that are much more together in this. So that has to be the goal for US, for India, all these countries, diverse, large countries. We definitely have to learn these lessons, because if we lose the social compact, I cannot see how capitalism survives. I cannot see how wealth survives. So the social compact is extremely important. So that is what I would say.
You're always inspirational. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
namaste again. And
Hey,
look forward to meeting you in person one of these days.
yeah, we definitely. I hope soon. I mean, it's. I think the flights are opening up.
Well,
So hopefully,
the digital nomad means we have to be nomads. We have to travel.
travel. Yeah, I definitely will do my travel next year soon. So
Thank you so
thank you.
much. Bye bye.